Hello Mac, and welcome to your survival review. So, covering any questions first, I'm just learning the new survival for keys and I'm having some difficulty maximizing damage. I'm a ranged player in raid, so getting used to frontal/melee uptime, etc., but also things such as Mongoose Fury windows with the new 4-piece, difficulty keeping the KC debuff on prior target, the prior of when to use Fury of the Eagle, Hydra Bite versus Poison Injection. Another sentiment was that Hydra was most prepared, but I have the recent buffs to still change that. Butchery management, CA macro was Fear of the Eagle, cancel aura macro. Alright. So there's a lot of things to go over here. So yeah, let's start with like the stuff you can sort of sort out before combat. So CA macro, so you'll need, 3 of these, unfortunately. And the first one is, so you need this one for your, wait, no, got the right one. Here we go. Yeah, so you need this one for when you activate Coordinated Assault. It will turn off the auto cast on your pet's basic attack, because that is what procs the, Coordinated Empower. Then we make it so that when you press kill shot, it will use those autocasts only when you press kill shot during your cooldowns, to ensure that the kill shot is what gets the empower every single time. And then it's really important that you turn it back on after, because your basic attacks from your pet do some actual meaningful damage. So so this part is pretty easy, because you just kind of like set and forget. The main thing you need to remember is to turn it back on with this macro. And I'd highly recommend you grab this weak aura from Thymond, which basically just, you can remove the CA timer from it, but you definitely want the alert that tells you to turn the autocast back on. And then you just want to, keybind that to, I put it on my mount keybind, personally. Alright, then the second macro you'll need is a Fury of the Eagle macro. Luckily, this one is pretty simple. So basically it's just cancel our Bloodseeker and then you cast Fury of the Eagle. The reason for this is that the Bloodseeker gives you attack speed. And the attack speed also improves the channel time of Fury of the Eagle, but it does not make it tick faster. So really having a lot of Bloodseeker stacks will just make Fury of the Eagle really fast, and it will not have as many ticks, which just makes it far weaker. So, every time we use Fury of the Eagle, we want to cancel Bloodseeker, so with that we get a full, slow, but many ticks of a Fury of the Eagle. Now, if you're using the Jarun, like the polearm from Rashok in the raid, then you also want to macro that to Fury of the Eagle, because each tick of Fury of the Eagle will actually give you a proc of that. The best way to handle that is basically to put above the cancel aura line, you put /use and then the name of the item, like Jarun something something. Then you're good. It's important that you don't put it after, because then, in my experience, it will sometimes just cancel Fury of the Eagle, because the order of the macro, so it's pretty important that you make it the first line. So that's all the essential survival degenerate macros that you need. Alright, then I'm just gonna go over everything else in a sort of descending order. So Mongoose Fury windows in AoE. So this is not really a major concern. It's sort of really far down your list of concerns in AoE. If anything, you should focus more on using Mongoose Bite to spend latent poison than you should worry about Mongoose Fury windows. You won't be able to cast Mongoose Bite terribly often, and when you do, you don't care about Mongoose Fury windows. Now, on single target, it's a little bit different, but it's not that much different. It's just you want to start Mongoose Fury windows at a reasonable amount of focus. But that will sort of happen anyway, because Kill Command is generally a higher prior than Mongoose Bite, unless you already have Mongoose Fury up. So you can see here, Mongoose Fury has a super high prior if there's, if you're just trying to milk the Mongoose Fury for every GCD. So this will just happen dynamically throughout the rotation, and it's not something you generally think that much about. But then other than that, so you would always spam Mongoose Bite when you have a blue bomb active, just to stack the bleed. And then other than that, the only sort of threshold is just, okay, are you above 60 focus? And in that case, you press it. And even then, when Mongoose Fury is up, assuming it's not with 1 GCD left, it is still a pretty low prior. So don't worry too much about it. It is not the end of the world like it used to be. Alright, difficulty keeping KC debuff on prior target. So, main tip here is, obviously, weak auras that help you make sure that it's up on your current target. In my weak aura pack, I have it so that my kill command button lights up if I'm targeting something that doesn't have the 4-piece debuff. And then a more general tip is just make sure that, at the start of every pack, that you're hitting the highest health target. So that because target swapping for survival on an AoE pack is pretty bad. Precisely because you have this like you have to put up the KC every time you have to target swap and you want to bump off a new target, which is really inconvenient. So the less you can target swap, the better. And the best way to avoid having to do that too often is simply to, start out the pack hitting the highest health target, and hopefully that will also be the slowest dying target. And then, like, another sort of muscle memory thing that I try to do is whenever, like, a KC is coming up in my rotation imminently, I sort of make it a habit to, like, scan the nameplates to see if there's a higher health target that I could swap to. And if there is, I will send my KC in that target and sort of make the swap, the target swap, part of my rotation, if that makes sense. Alright. The prior of when to use Fury of the Eagle. So, reasonably high, and especially like just yesterday, I made an important update to the guide with the priority of Fury of the Eagle and how it relates to coordinated assault. And what it basically boils down to is that you want to use Fury of the Eagle and a bunch of other abilities before you even enter coordinated assault. So before, coordinated assault was used pretty early in the opener. But now it's like, quite late, and that's because we want to get rid of the Fury of the Eagle first. Because it's quite a lot of damage and it's quite a lot of bomb regen, and you basically have no time to use it during coordinated assault itself. So that is also reflected in the breakdown of the rotation here. So as you can see, so activating coordinated assault and cooldown, but if you have Fury of the Eagle ticked right here, then you'll see changes, and it says on cooldown when Fury of the Eagle is on cooldown. So you'd skip this line until you eventually get to this. So Fury of the Eagle on cooldown. Okay, what is it a higher, lower prior than? Well, firstly, you gotta get your bombs off entirely. And you gotta get Butchery off 3 charges. So if we look at how this, so basically the opener is just this put into a strict sequence. So what do I mean by that? Well, okay. So the first thing we do in the opener is we activate our 4-piece buff. That is priority number 1. Then we activate Death Chakram. That is priority number 2. Then we get rid of both of our bombs, and that's basically because we skip this line. And we skip this line because coordinated assault is not up. And then we go here because the wildfire bomb is on 2 charges. And while coordinated assault is off cooldown. So this line activates twice, and that's these 2 lines. Then it's, okay, Butchery if it's on 3 charges, which it will be at the beginning of the fight. Then we send that. And then once that is handled, then is when we send Fury of the Eagle. And then, because of what Fury of the Eagle does, it gives you bombs back. By the end of the Fury of the Eagle, especially on the AoE, we'll probably be back on 2 charges of bomb pretty much. So that is why we send so that's why the opener says 1 to 2 wildfire bombs. Because if you get better on G and the crits, or there's not a lot of targets up, then maybe you won't end up with 2 full charges. But, however many bombs you can get away with here. Then, after the Fury of the Eagle and the bombs, then you'll probably be back on 3 charges of Butchery, so we use that. And now, finally, at long last, we can get into coordinated assault, which will always open with a kill shot. And then we're off to the races. So, pretty complex opener, a lot to consider, but honestly, if you just follow this sequence at the start of every M+ pack, you'll be in pretty good shape. But I won't deny that it's a little bit complicated. Alright. Hydrospite versus Poison Injection. So, it's a little bit similar, but I've also been running a lot of Hydrospite lately. It's a bit of a similar dilemma as it is for MM, in that you gain some AoE, but you lose some prior target. Strictly speaking, latent poison is better for AoE as well, but it does require you to, really nail this line here, which a lot of people don't do. Because, survival is hectic and difficult enough to play without you also having to rotate your filler Mongoose bite around on all these targets and tracking the debuffs on different nameplates. So Hydrospite is fine, but latent poison is a little bit better. I don't think you're ending if you run Hydrospite for the time being. Then Butchery management, sort of more generally. So the main thing to know is that unless it's on 3 charges, it's a pretty low prior. But that said, just sort of subjectively, I prefer to just kind of send it aggressively on cooldown along with bomb. Because it's pretty easy to for situations to just force it to reach 3 charges because you can't press it for another reason. So using it aggressively when you have it is what I'd recommend. The main thing that you don't want to mess up is that you don't want to cap your bombs. So that's why, always using your bombs is much higher prior than using Butchery. Alright, with that in mind, let's hop into the VOD you've submitted here. And let's have a look. Alright, so we got a pet summoned. We are an enforcer, so obviously highest health target, most important thing. Alright, so huge problem here in the beginning is that you're opening with a bomb without putting your kill command debuff up. So that is, like, as we go back to the rotation, that is the highest prior of all. Like, if the debuff is not up, that is what you absolutely want to do first of all. Then secondly, I recommend putting up your dash chakram before sending your 2 bombs, because that 10% is kind of going to help, because these are going to be some of your strongest bombs throughout the fight. So yeah, sending these 2 bombs is a big mistake. So explosive shot first. Yeah, so I actually should have mentioned that. So if we add explosive shot to the equation here for the opener, then that is what you send first. And that is because you can, like, it won't do damage immediately, so you can sort of send it, like, as you can see the tank is about to pull, but before it's actually pulled. Whereas if you're going to do that with kill command, like, your pet would die, and that's a real bad. So yeah, that part is fine. Then you send the dash chakram. So I would recommend, so that's a mistake, because you want to send a kill command before the dash chakram, because you want to overlap the dash chakram with as many bombs as possible. The kill command global itself on AoE will not do a ton of damage. Alright, big mistake here is, so you send a coordinated assault immediately when you want to get rid of your bombs before going into coordinated assault. But perhaps more importantly, you still don't have your 4-piece debuff up from kill command. Now, this makes me wonder if you don't have the 4-piece and that's why you're not doing it. And unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult for me to check right now. But I guess I'll be able to see the debuff shortly. Alright, let's see. So here send a kill command, which is correct, but obviously, like, the damage is already done because you needed to get the kill command and the 2 bombs off before the coordinated assault. Alright, so here you send butchery, even though, like, let's look at your, let me just speed it up a little bit. Kill command, like, your bomb is just about to hit 2 charges already. So you sending butchery now is basically doing nothing for it. So you're just like, so it needed to be kill command into the 2 bombs here. So now we send one of the bombs, and we can see you do have the 4-piece. The debuff is right here. So yeah, you've sent like 3 bombs at this point without the debuff. Now you finally put it up. Here once again, so kill command. So now it's finally up, which is good. And you have like 1 global remaining before you can kill shot. So you have a bomb charge available, and as we can see in the, like, as long as butchery is not on 3 charges, which it isn't, then sending your bomb on cooldown is a higher prior than butchery. And so in here you're sending the butchery instead, which causes your bomb to overcap because it is like almost no cooldown to begin with. Then we send a bomb, and then, like, instead of sending the kill shot, which is like, you know, absolute top prior during coordinated assault, you're sending another butchery, which is down here on the prior. And so there's the kill shot, but like with the delay that you've already given kill shot, you've probably already lost the cast. So yeah, lots to improve here. And at this point, you know, the 4-piece debuff is about to expire, and you're gonna send 1 bomb here. Okay, then you actually do put the kill command up again. So now kill shot is available, and that should be a top prior. And what it also looks like is that you may not be using the macro, because you can see here's the coordinated empower buff, but it's coming though you're pressing your bomb and not your kill shot. So, like, I guess maybe you asked about the macros because you don't have them yet, but certainly, you know, that is worth sorting out. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like, there are more globals that don't follow the correct prior list than there are globals that do follow it. So I would recommend, like, and this is the thing about survival. Like, survival is really strong. So, like, it's easy to look at this and be like, 500k burst on first pack, that's really good. But imagine how good it could be if you nailed all these things. If all your bombs were buffed by 40%. If you were nailing your kill shots every time. If you were not overcapping your bombs and losing cast and so on, right? And if you were sending your Fury of the Eagle, which is pretty significant burst, before your dash chakram. Because this is the entire problem, right? You have Fury of the Eagle sitting off cooldown for 20-30 seconds because there's just no opportunity to press it during coordinated assault. So I mean, yeah. So we can deep dive the whole thing, right? But ultimately, like, if I can talk about like 10 seconds on a mistake on every single global, but like from this point on, it's unlikely that I'll find a lot of new things to say. Like, we can look for another minute here, but ultimately, like, everything just needs kind of rethinking and practice on the dummies. Is what I would say. And as someone who has like personally gone through having to learn all this in a pretty short span of time, the best way to do it is just to like memorize this priority in every given situation. Like, know what is the, like, memorize the priority list simply, and then drill it on the dummies. And the best way to do that is like, you go do your open on the dummies. So that is the first thing, like, because that's a pretty long sequence to remember, right? And then after that, you basically play until you make your first mistake, and then you stop, and then you go back and analyze the mistake, and you're like, okay, no, I pressed let's say I pressed butchery even though I should have pressed the kill shot or whatever, and then you do it again. Like, you just gotta drill and memorize. I think that's the best way to learn this, because there's a lot to memorize, but like, the problem is that at any given moment with survival, there are a lot of juicy buttons to press. Like, at pretty much any given point, you could cast a Mongoose bite, or you could cast Fury of the Eagle, or you could cast Kill Command, or you could cast a bomb, or you could cast a kill shot, or you could cast a butchery, or maybe you can cast an explosive shot, or maybe you can cast a dash track. Like, at any, like, it's not like the other specs where you have like 2 buttons to press and you just have to know which one. With survival, you often have like 5 buttons to press and you have to know which one, given a bunch of other contexts and circumstances. So it's a lot more to memorize than for most specs. Anyway, it's going on more global by global. So here, the 4-piece debuff is up, bomb is available, butchery not on 2 charges. So now we would send bomb, but instead you send butchery, which overcaps your bomb. So now we send the bombs, which is good. Then you send the kill command to refresh the expiring. Yeah, so you didn't really need to do this now. I would probably send the butchery that's coming up instead. But I mean, they both kind of work. Then you butchery, which is fine. But now you want to hit the kill shot, because kill shot is a higher prio than bomb, even if bomb is on 2 charges, you see? Which you do. And now you have so you actually got the weak guard that tells you to turn the autocast back on. Now it's bomb. Okay. And now you send the Fury of the Eagle, and it's gonna give you some bombs back, but like you're capped on bombs already. Like, so like here, like Fury of the Eagle is used as an afterthought when really it should be like one of your, well, not a top prio, but it should be used pretty early in the opener and shortly after it. So yeah, let's go into the next pack, because obviously for this one you won't have CD, so it's gonna be a different situation. Alright, slowing it down a little bit. So first thing we want to send here is kill command, which you do. Well, actually, like, I would probably have sent even sooner, because this is what I mentioned earlier, right? Like, now, even though it's not pulled yet, because explosive shot doesn't do damage until it like explodes, you could send an explosive shot on this coming pack, knowing that it's going to be pulled shortly. So that's what I would have done. Like, instead of the kill command, I would send the explosive shot. And also, like, you could probably have just started hitting it earlier in general. Alright, so kill command, and then you send a bomb. And the problem is you send a bomb on kind of the wrong target here, because obviously the bomb kind of goes through the target relative to where you're facing. So, like, you send a kill command, and then you send a bomb here when you're sort of faced like this. And you see the bomb goes off, but it, like, I can't see it on your debuff because they filter it out, but it doesn't look like your bomb actually hit the other targets here. Yeah, and indeed it didn't, because you can see here there's no debuff. So, obviously facing your bombs correctly is super important. If everything is tightly come together, it doesn't matter. But like sometimes when things are a little bit spread out, such as this situation when the tank is kiting or like trying to get to the line spot, it's very important that if you're chasing, you're hitting the rearmost mob so that your bombs are going through and hitting the ones like that are sort of at the front of the running pack. Or you can be ahead of them and then sort of backpedal and bomb through them so that it goes through the front target and hits the back. Alright, so here you're sending, I mean, firstly, like, you sent 2 bombs already with no dash chakram used, and no explosive shot, which are much higher in the prior list. So that's something to fix. But then, like, you're about to send, like, a Mongoose bite, or I guess you thought twice about it. But like, there's also free targets in range of you. So, you know, even if you're not gonna cast this, or you're not gonna cast this, even though you should, even butchery is on free charges, and that's a pretty high prio as well. And there are free targets near you, which would make it worth casting. So here, like, a bit of AFK, it feels like. Like, so obviously, like, here in this situation, I would, like, sort of disengage across, and then maybe, like, you can do really cool things with the combination of disengage and harpoon. Like, disengage over here, then harpoon there. Like, just try to close the gap as quickly as possible, because if you're not in range, and your butchery is on free charges, like, that's a lot of damage sort of getting thrown out the window. But, I mean, yeah, so there's a lot of things to go over here. I know this ended up being a bit more of a Q&A, but that's because, I mean, like, I can review the whole VOD, right? And we could be here for 2 hours, but, like, I would spend 90% of the time saying the same things that I said in the first 30 seconds of the VOD. Because fundamentally, like, you just need to memorize this and drill it until it's second nature. And the only way to get there is practice. Like, I can tell you, and, you know, hopefully this helped, especially with some of the Q&A stuff. But, you know, one thing is knowing something, and another is having it in your muscle memory so that, like, it just kind of happens all by itself. And that takes some time to generate with this spec, because it's just kind of a difficult spec. So yeah, that is my advice. And I hope, you know, for anyone else watching this, that it helped you with getting started on your survival journey. And, you know, if you want any coaching videos like this made for yourself, then you can check out my Patreon in the description below. And Mac, thank you so much for your support. I hope this helped. Any questions, just hit me up on Discord. I always, you know, do sort of a post video Q&A on Discord, where you can just, you know, hit me up at any time. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.